The Airbus A320 family consists of short to medium-range, narrow-body, commercial passenger twin-engine jet airliners manufactured by Airbus. The family includes the A318, A319, A320 and A321, as well as the ACJ business jet. The A320s are also named A320 CEO after the introduction of the A320neo. Final assembly of the family takes place in Toulouse, France, and Hamburg, Germany. A plant in Tianjin, China, has also been producing aircraft for Chinese airlines since 2009, while a final assembly facility in Mobile, Alabama delivered its first A321 in April 2016. The aircraft family can accommodate up to 220 passengers and has a range of 3,100 to 12,000 kilometers, depending on model. The first member of the A320 family, the A320, was launched in March 1984, first flew on the 22nd of February 1987, and was first delivered in March 1988. The family was extended to include the A321, the A319, and the A318. The A320 family pioneered the use of digital fly-by-wire flight control systems, as well as side-stick controls, in commercial aircraft. There has been a continuous improvement process since introduction. As of the 29th of February 2016, a total of 6,932 Airbus A320 family aircraft have been delivered, of which 6,631 are in service. In addition, another 5,531 airliners are on firm order. It ranked as the world's fastest-selling jet airliner family according to records from 2005 to 2007, and as the best-selling single-generation aircraft program. The A320 family has proved popular with airlines including low-cost carriers such as EasyJet, which purchased A319s and A320s to replace its 737 fleet. As of the 31st of March 2016, American Airlines was the largest operator of the Airbus A320 family aircraft, operating 362 aircraft. The aircraft family competes directly with the 737 and has competed with the 717, 757, and the MD-80, MD-90. In December 2010, Airbus announced a new generation of the A320 family, the A320neo. The A320neo offers new, more efficient engines, combined with airframe improvements and the addition of winglets, named Sharklets by Airbus. The aircraft will deliver fuel savings of up to 15%. As of January 2016, a total of 4,508 A320neo family aircraft had been ordered by more than 70 airlines, making it the fastest ever selling commercial aircraft. The first A320neo was delivered to Lufthansa on the 20th of January 2016 and it entered service on the 25th of January 2016. Development. Origins. When Airbus designed the Airbus A300 during the late 1960s and early 1970s, it envisaged a broad family of airliners with which to compete against Boeing and Douglas, two established U.S. aerospace manufacturers. For the moment of formation, Airbus had begun studies into derivatives of the Airbus A320 in support of this long-term goal. Prior to the service introduction of the first Airbus airliners, engineers within Airbus had identified 9 possible variations of the A300 known as A320B1 to B9. A 10th variation, conceived in 1973, later the first to be constructed, was designated the A300B10. It was a smaller aircraft which would be developed into the long-range Airbus A310. Airbus then focused its efforts on the single-aisle market, which was dominated by the 737 and McDonnell Douglas DC-9. Plans from a number of European aircraft manufacturers called for a successor to the relatively successful BAC-111, and to replace the 737-200 and DC-9. Germany's MBB, British Aircraft Corporation, Sweden's Saab and Spain's CASA worked on the EUROPLANE, a 180 to 200-seat aircraft. It was abandoned after intruding on A310 specifications. VFW Fokker, Dornier and Hawker Siddeley worked on a number of 150-seat designs. Alongside BAE were MBB, Fokker VFW and Aerospatial. The design within the jet study that was carried forward was the jet.2, which then became the Airbus A1 2/3 series, before settling on the A320 name for its launch in 1984. Previously, Hawker Siddeley had produced a design called the HS-134 Airbus in 1965, an evolution of the HS-121 Trident, which shared much of the general arrangement of the later jet-3 study design. The name Airbus at the time referred to a B requirement, rather than to the later international program design effort. A new program was initiated subsequently, called Joint European Transport. This was set up in June 1977, and was based at the then British Aerospace site in Weybridge, Surrey, UK. Although the members were all of Airbus partners, they regarded the project as a separate collaboration from Airbus. This project was considered the forerunner of Airbus A320, encompassing the 130 to 188-seat market, powered by two CFM56s. It would have a cruise speed of Mach 0.84. The program was later transferred to Airbus, leading up to the creation of the single-aisle studies in 1980. Led by former leader of JET program, Derek Brown, the group looked at three different variants, covering the 125 to 180-seat market, called SA1, SA2 and SA3. Although unaware at the time, the consortium was producing the blueprints for the A319, A320 and A321, respectively. The single-aisle program created divisions within Airbus about whether to design a shorter-range twin-jet than a longer-range quad-jet wanted by the West Germans, particularly Lufthansa. However, works proceeded, and the German carrier would eventually order the twin-jet. In February 1981, the project was redesignated A320, with efforts focused on the former SA2. During the year, Airbus worked with Delta Airlines on a 150-seat aircraft envisioned and required by the airline. The A320 would carry 150 passengers, 1,860 nautical miles, using fuel from wing fuel tanks only. The -200 had more fuel through the activation of center fuel tank, increasing fuel capacity from 15,590 liters to 23,430 L, enabling flights with a distance of 2,850 nmi. The aircraft would measure 36.04 meters and 39.24 meters, respectively. Airbus then had to decide on a cross-section for the A320. It considered a fuselage diameter of the Boeing 707 and 727, or does something better. It eventually settled on a wider diameter, with the internal width at 3.7 meters, compared to 3.45 meters of the Boeing aircraft. Although heavier, this specification allowed the aircraft to compete more effectively with the 737. The A320 wing went through several stages of design, finally settling on 33.91 meters. It is long and thin, offering better aerodynamic efficiency because of the higher aspect ratio than the competition, namely the 737 and MD-80. With the A320, Airbus made a controversial decision. For the first time, digital fly-by-wire flight control system would be incorporated into a commercial airliner, although it was previously successfully proven on military fighter aircraft, such as the Vought F-8 Crusader. Aside from associated reduction in weight and cost, this system would provide flight envelope protection. The pilot, in essence, places inputs into the flight control computer, which interprets these actions and moves the flight control surfaces. FBW also allows Airbus to make flying characteristics similar to later models, such as the Airbus A330, A340, A380, and the A350. It would feature side-stick control for the first time on a commercial aircraft. Bernard Ziegler, son of the former Airbus CEO, Henry Ziegler, was the initiator of the aircraft's revolutionary fly-by-wire flight controls with side-stick cockpit controller and full-glass cockpit. He successfully convinced aviation authorities of the concept's validity. During the A320 development program, Airbus considered Profan technology, backed by Lufthansa. At the time unproven, it was essentially a fan placed outside the engine nacelle, offering speed of a turbofan at turboprops economics. Eventually, Airbus stuck with turbofans. Power on the A320 would be supplied by two CFM56-5A1s rated at 25,000 lbf. It was the only available engine at launch until the IAEV2500, offered by International Aero Engines, a group composed of Rolls-Royce, Pratt & Whitney, Japanese Aero Engine Corporation, Fiat and MTU Aero Engines. The first V2500 variant, the V2500A1, has a thrust output of 25,000 pounds-force, hence the name, and is marginally more efficient than the CFM56, with specific fuel consumption at 0.560 pounds, compared to 0.591 pounds of the CFM56. Production and testing. Production of the A320 was postponed for a number of reasons. From the start, the UK, France and West Germany wanted the responsibility of final assembly and the associated duties. These disputes were known as work-share arguments, driven by, apart from money, prestige. The Germans requested an increased work-share of 40%, while the British wanted the major responsibilities to be swapped around to give partners production and research and development experience. In the end, British work-share was increased from that of the two previous Airbuses, while virtually no changes took place for the other three major member countries. Another contributing factor was launch aid, or subsidies, for the aerospace companies from the respective governments. France was willing to commit, while the Germans were more cautious. The UK government, on the other hand, was unwilling to provide funding for the tooling requested by British Aerospace. Estimated at 250 million liras, it was postponed for 3 years until the 1st of March 1984, when an announcement was made about the deal between government and manufacturer. The agreement dictates that 50 million liras would be paid whether the A320 would fly or not, while the rest would be paid as a levy on each aircraft sold. The program was launched the following day off the back of orders for 96 aircraft from 5 customers. Air France was the first customer for the type, having placed an order for 50 aircraft, split evenly between firm and options, between 16 A321s and 34-200s. However, British Caledonian was the first to place a firm order for 7 back in October 1983. Cyprus Airways became the first to place order for V2500-powered A320s in November 1984. Pan Am also selected V2500 when it requested 16 firm orders and 34 options in January 1985, as did Adria. The most significant order was to come when Northwest Airlines placed an order for 100 A320s in October 1986, later confirmed at the 1990 Farnborough Airshow, powered by CFM56 engines. The first Airbus A320 was rolled out on 14 February 1987 amid dry ice and laser beams as part of a spectacular unveiling ceremony. A number of high-profile figures were present, including the Prince and Princess of Wales. The first flight came on the 22nd of February, during which the aircraft flew for 3 hours 23 minutes. The flight marked the beginning of a flight test program involving 1,200 airborne hours on 530 flights. European Joint Aviation Authority's certification was received on the 26th of February 1988. The first A320 delivery was to Air France on the 26th of March 1988. On the 26th of June 1988, a chartered Air France Airbus A320-111 crashed into trees at the end of runway at Mulhouse Hasheim Airport. 3 out of 130 passengers were killed. In February 1990, another A320, flown by Indian Airlines, crash-landed short of the airport runway in Bangalore. The ensuing fire contributed to the casualty count of 92 out of 146 on board. The press and media later questioned the fly-by-wire flight control system. Subsequent investigations by Commission of Inquiry found no malfunction of the aircraft or its equipment which could have contributed towards a reduction in safety or an increase in the crew's workload during the final flight phase. The response of the engines was normal and in compliance with certification requirement. In 2009, Airbus required about 8 months to build one A320. Components from various Airbus plants are transported to the final assembly plant at Hamburg. Fin converter for the A318, A319, A320, A321 and to Toulouse-Blagnac for the A320. Nearly all assemblies are moved using Airbus A306 Beluga, outsized transporters. Airbus A320s sold to Chinese airlines scheduled for delivery between 2009 and 2012 are being assembled in Tianjin, China. Airbus produces 42 A320 per month in 2015 and expects to increase to 50 per month in 2017, and possibly 60, stretching the A320. A321. The first derivative of the A320 was the Airbus A321, also known as the stretched A320, A320-500 and A325. Its launch came on 24 November 1988 after commitments for 183 aircraft from 10 customers were secured. The aircraft would be a minimum change derivative, apart from a number of minor modifications to the wing and the fuselage stretch itself. The wing would incorporate double-slotted flaps and minor trailing edge modifications, increasing the wing area from 124 square meters to 128 square meters. The fuselage was lengthened by 4 plugs, giving the A321 an overall length of 6.94 meters longer than the A320. The length increase required the overwing exits of the A320 to be enlarged and repositioned in front of and behind the wings. The center fuselage and undercarriage were reinforced to accommodate the increase in maximum takeoff weight of 9,600 kilograms, taking it to 83,000 kilograms. Final assembly for the A321 would be, as a first for any Airbus, carried out in Germany. This came after a dispute between the French, who claimed the move would incur $150 million in unnecessary expenditure associated with the new plant, and the Germans, arguing it would be more productive for Airbus in the long run. The second production line was located at Hamburg, which would also subsequently produce the smaller Airbus A319 and A318. For the first time, Airbus entered the bond market, through which it raised $480 million to finance development costs. An additional $180 million was borrowed from European Investment Bank and private investors. The maiden flight of the Airbus A321 came on the 11th of March 1993, when the prototype registration FWWIA flew with AEV2500 engines. The second prototype, equipped with CFM56-5B turbofans, flew in May. Lufthansa and Alitalia were the first to order the stretched Airbuses, with 20 and 40 aircraft requested, respectively. The first of Lufthansa's V2500A5-powered A321s arrived on the 27th of January 1994, while Alitalia received its first CFM56-5B powered aircraft on the 22nd of March, shrinking the A320. A319. The A319 is the next derivative of the baseline A320. The design is a shrink, with its origins in the 130 to 140 seat SA-1, part of the single-aisle studies. The SA-1 was shelved as the consortium concentrated on its bigger siblings. After healthy sales of the A320, A321, Airbus refocused on what was then known as the A320M7, meaning A320-7 fuselage frames. It would provide direct competition for the 737-300-700. The shrink was achieved through the removal of 4 fuselage frames 4 and 3 aft of the wing, cutting the overall length by 3.73 meters. Consequently, the number of overwing exits was reduced from 4 to 2. The bulk cargo door was replaced by an aft container door, which can take in reduced height LD3-45 containers. Minor software changes were made to accommodate the different handling characteristics, otherwise the aircraft is largely unchanged. Power is provided by the CFM56-5A V2500A5, rated to 98 kN, with option for 105 kN thrust. Airbus began offering the new model from the 22nd of May 1992, with the actual launch of the $275 million program occurring on the 10th of June 1993. The A319's first customer was ILFC, who signed for 6 aircraft. On the 23rd of March 1995, the first A319 underwent final assembly at Airbus' German plant in Hamburg, where the A321s are also assembled. It was rolled out on the 24th of August 1995, with the maiden flight the following day. The certification program would take 350 airborne hours involving 2 aircraft. Certification for the CFM56-5B6 halves-equipped variant was granted in April 1996, after which qualification for the V2524A5 started the following month. Delivery of the first A319 to Swissair took place on 25 April 1996, entering service by month's end. In January 1997, an A319 broke a record during a delivery flight by flying 3,588 nautical miles the Great Circle route to Winnipeg, Manitoba from Hamburg in 9 hours 5 minutes. The A319 has proved popular with low-cost airlines such as EasyJet, who has orders for 172, with 172 delivered. Second shrink. A318. The A318 was born out of mid-1990 studies between Aviation Industries of China, Singapore Technologies Aerospace, Alenia and Airbus on a 95 to 125-seat aircraft project. The program was called the A31X and covered the 95-seat A316 and 115 to 125-seat A317. The former would have had an overall length of 31.3 meters, while the A317 was longer by 3.2 meters at 34.5 meters. The engines were to be supplied from two Rolls-Royce Bridge 715s, CFM56-9S, or the Pratt & Whitney PW6000s, with the MTOW of 53.3 T for the smaller version and 58 T for the A317. The thrust requirement were 77.9 to 84.6 kilonewtons and 84.6 to 91.2 kilonewtons, respectively. Range was settled at 5,200 kilometers and 5,800 kilometers for the high gross weights of both variants. Both share a wingspan of 31.0 meters on a flight deck similar to that of the A320 family, costing $2 billion to develop. Aircraft production to take place in China. Simultaneously, Airbus was developing Airbus A318. In early 1998, Airbus revealed its considerations of designing a 100-seat aircraft based on the A320. The A31X project was terminated by September 1998, after which Airbus officially announced an aircraft of its own, the A318, at that year's Farnborough Air Show. The aircraft is the smallest product of Airbus's product range, and was developed coincidentally at the same time as the largest commercial aircraft in history, the Airbus A380. First called A319M5 in as early as March 1995, it was shorter by 0.79 meter ahead of the wing and 1.6 meters behind. These cuts reduced passenger capacity from 124 on the A319 to 107 passengers in a two-class layout. Range was 5,700 kilometers, or 5,950 kilometers with upcoming sharklets. The 107-seater was launched on 26 April 1999 with the options and orders count at 109 aircraft. After 3 years of design, the maiden flight took place at Hamburg on 15 January 2002. Tests on the lead engine, the Pratt & Whitney PW6000, revealed worse than expected fuel consumption. Consequently, Pratt & Whitney abandoned the 5-stage high-pressure compressor for the MTU-designed 6-stage HPC. The 129 order book for the A318 shrunk to 80 largely because of switches to other A320 family members. After 17 months of flight certification, during which 850 hours and 350 flights were accumulated, JAA certification was obtained for the CFM56 powered variant on 23 May 2003. On the 22nd of July 2003, first delivery for launch customer Frontier Airlines occurred, entering service before the end of the month. A320 Enhanced Family. A320 Enhanced Family is the working title for a series of improvements to the A320 family. The improvements include engine improvements, aerodynamic refinements such as adding large curved winglets, weight savings, and a new cabin design. In 2006, Airbus tested 3 styles of winglet intended to counteract the wings-induced drag and wingtip vortices more effectively than the previous wingtip fence. The first design type to be tested was developed by Airbus and was based on work done by the AWIATOR program. The second type of winglet incorporated a more blended design and was designed by Winglet Technology, a company based in Wichita, Kansas. 2 aircraft were used in the flight test evaluation campaign: the prototype A320, which had been retained by Airbus for testing, and a new-build aircraft which was fitted with both types of winglets before it was delivered to JetBlue. Despite the anticipated efficiency gains and development work, Airbus announced that the new winglets will not be offered to customers, claiming that the weight of the modifications required would negate any aerodynamic benefits. Instead, on the 17th of December 2008, Airbus announced it was to begin flight testing an existing blended winglet design developed by Aviation Partners Inc. as part of an A320 modernization program using the A320 prototype. On the 15th of November 2009, Airbus announced future additions of sharklets to A320s beginning in 2012 with Air New Zealand. These Airbus winglets, which are 2.4 meters tall and weigh 200 kilograms, would reduce fuel burn by 4% and offer increases in payload of 500 kilograms, or range by 110 nm at the original payload. This corresponds to an annual CO2 reduction of around 700 t per aircraft, saving operators $220,000 per aircraft per year. The sharklets are to be manufactured and distributed by Korean Air Aerospace Division. Since 2007, the cabin was fitted to more than 600 aircraft as of March 2009. Airbus says it offers better luggage storage and a quieter cabin, packaged with a more modern look and feel. Additionally, improved cabin efficiency from a new galley concept, reduced weight, improved ergonomics and food hygiene, and recycling requirements. LED ambience lighting is optionally available. Anytime LEDs are used for the passenger service unit, and passengers can get information with touchscreen displays. Older A320 series aircraft can be updated. New engine option. A320neo. Airbus developed a new version of the A320, called A320neo, for new engine option, based on more efficient engines, at least partly in response to the threat posed by Bombardier Aerospace's development of the C-Series airliner, with which Bombardier hoped to compete directly with Boeing and Airbus for the first time. The choice for new engines include the CFM International LEAP-1A and the Pratt & Whitney PW1100G. Though the new engines will burn 16% less fuel, the actual fuel gain on an A320 installation will be slightly less, since 1 to 2% is typically lost upon installation on an existing aircraft. This means an additional range of 950 kilometers, or 2t of extra payload. The A320neo will also include some modifications to the wing, mainly the installation of blended winglets called sharklets. Airbus CEO said to be comfortable with the projections of 20% lower maintenance cost for the Pratt & Whitney's PW1000G family, compared with engines powering the A320. In 2011, Airbus targeted early 2016 for the first delivery and planned to deliver 4,000 A320 neo over 15 years. Virgin America became the launch customer with a firm order of 30 A320 neo aircraft as a part of a 60 aircraft order on 17 January 2011. In January 2011, Indigo reached a tentative agreement with Airbus to order 150 A320 neo aircraft along with 30 more A320s. At the 2011 Paris Air Show, Airbus announced firm orders from GECAS, Scandinavian Airlines System, TransAsia Airways, LAN Airlines and Go Air, along with major orders from Indian low-cost carrier Indigo for 150 aircraft and Malaysian low-cost carrier AirAsia for 200 A320 neo, the largest commercial aviation order at the time. In total, the A320 neo received a combined 667 commitments worth $60.9 billion. American Airlines placed an order of 130 A320 neo airliners on 20 July 2011. By the end of 2011, Airbus had received 1,196 firm orders for the A320 neo family, making it the fastest-selling commercial aircraft in history. On 15 March 2013, it was reported that Turkish Airlines had placed a firm order for 82 A320 aircraft with 35 options. The firm order has 25 A321, 4 A320 neo, and 53 A321 neo airliners.